Ma'am, want to be the first to announce. We got a new projector. It didn't come with the snow. Yeah, yeah, and it seems to be a lot brighter. Temporarily I can until it slightly gets old. But yeah. Welcome to our class on Ezekiel chapter 20. And this is a review that helps us understand this chapter. I showed it to you last week, but chapter 20 is a review of these four parts of Israel's history. Verses 5 through 9, while they're still slaves in Egypt. Verses 10 through 17, the people led out into the wilderness, first group. And in verses 18 through 26, which we just looked at last week, is the descendants or children of those who fell or died in the wilderness. Remember, the entire generation, with the exception of Joshua and Caleb, died, and these 18 verses 18 through 26 deal with what kind of people and what was their conduct while in the wilderness. And verse 27 through 29, which is where we're going to begin tonight, is the fourth period in Jewish or Israelite history, and it is by far the longest, but Ezekiel covers it in 3 verses. Most of it, obviously, is passed over, and if you do the math, verses 27 through 29 cover about 860 years of Israelite history in the land of Canaan, up to the point where Ezekiel is, up to the present day. So, we will find that in addition to their wickedness and idolatry when they were in Egypt and in the wilderness, that the fathers had continued this same path when they came into the land of Canaan. I would love to be able to tell you, hey, the news gets a lot better once they finally got to the promised land. But please, don't get your hopes up. Verse 27, I think, is where we'll start tonight. Yes. Therefore, son of man, this is God addressing Ezekiel, speak to the house of Israel and say to them, quote, thus says the Lord God, in this your fathers have blasphemed me by acting treacherously against me. When I brought them into the land, and that's where the scene shifts, which I swore to give them, then they saw every high hill and every leafy tree, and they offered there their sacrifices, and there they presented the provocation of their offerings. There also they made their soothing aroma, and there they poured out their drink offerings, and we'll cover all of this. Then I said to them, what is this high place to which you go? So its name is called Bama, which means in Hebrew, high place, even to this day. Therefore, here's my judgment, he says. Thus says the Lord God, will you defile yourselves after the manner of your fathers and play the harlot after their detestable things? When you offer your gifts, verse 31, when you cause your sons to pass through the fire, you are defiling yourselves with all your idols to this day. And shall I be inquired of you, O house of Israel? As I live, declares the Lord God, I will not be inquired of by you. What comes into your mind will not come about when you say, quote, we will be like the nations, like the tribes of the lands, serving wood and stone, unquote. As you can tell, the situation after these three that we just talked about, these three eras, in number 4, had no improvement whatsoever. He says in verse 27, in this, that is, besides what they did in Egypt, where they picked up the habit of idolatry from the Egyptians, and in the wilderness, that they were there for 38 years, look what they did when they came into the land of Canaan. That's what he means, in this. Your fathers have blasphemed me from the very beginning, all the way up, Ezekiel, to the present time. The blasphemy is not necessarily to speak against Jehovah, but to live a life which is totally opposed to what he wants, mainly caused by idolatry, which led to a corrupt, immoral lifestyle and a complete disregard of his commands. Now there is some indication, and it's not very clear, but there is some indication that through all of this idolatry and all of these high places that it talks about in verse 28, high hills and leafy trees sitting on the top, that they continued to go into the temple and pay at least lip service to Jehovah God or Yahweh. To keep that up too, because he was just one of their gods, and they wanted to keep him happy as long as they could, along with the rest of their idols. The provocation of their offerings, the New King James makes that a whole lot clearer than mine. They provoked me with their offerings. So that makes a lot more sense than why the New American Standard translates it like that. Beats me. I don't understand that. But verse 28, no sooner had they, by God's infinite mercy and patience, brought them into the land of Canaan, they promptly appropriated to themselves all of the hilltop shrines, idolatrous worship sites, that were already there, that the Canaanites had been using. And when they saw them, they said, well, good. Here's another God we need to serve, and we will serve them up there under these trees on these high places. The soothing aroma in verse 28, of course, is the incense that they offered to these idols on these high places. The drink offerings, how many of you know what a drink offering is? It's simply a liquid, usually wine, that was poured out at the base of the altar at the time of the sacrifice, and he says, you did that. He commanded that, of course, for his worship inside the temple, and now they were using that to worship their idols. So they were using God's incense and his drink offerings of wine to serve other gods. Verse 29, that phrase there, so its name is called Bama, or high place, indicates, at least indirectly, that those sites are still in use. Ezekiel, and I'm sure Ezekiel knew it. He'd only been in captivity maybe 7 or 8 years, and I'm sure it was prominent while he was in Judea or in Jerusalem, so he knew about them. Verse 30, Israel has replied to the request of these visiting elders by reviewing the past corruption that Israel had been guilty of, and now he applies this same teaching to those first 3 groups, to the present group of people, not only over in Jerusalem and Judea, but also those of his fellow captives in Babylon. And he's asking, how can these representatives of the nation expect to receive encouraging responses to their inquiries when the same detestable practices of idolatry still continue up to that very day. So he says, I will not listen to your inquiries, much less respond to them. So, were the people of Ezekiel's day any better? No, they had shown no improvement. As a matter of fact, they continued a downhill trend. What had they added to their idolatry after they got into the land of Canaan, which was so horrendous? Child sacrifice. That is just unbelievable that they could do that. John?
They just sacrifice themselves to save a lot of time.
Okay. So, what has already been said in beginning with verse 5 through these 4 phases of Jewish history concerning their idolatry, from the time of its, from God's choosing them, it is expressly applied to this present generation. Everything I've been saying about the history of the people also fits today's people. Now, Ezekiel, what do you think?
They certainly hadn't gotten better.
No, they had gotten no.
Adding child sacrifice, they had certainly not.
Right, right. So, how could God, in view of what had happened for the last 860 years that they had been in the land of Canaan, how could he possibly delay or cancel the threat of judgment in view of the conduct of his people? And I'm sure that's what these elders who visited him while in captivity were hoping would happen, if they even believed what Ezekiel had been saying or not. Looking at verse 32, he says, what comes into your mind will not come about when you say, we will be like the nations. So where had they gotten to? They had decided that they were just going to cut off or cast off Yahweh altogether and just become just like their neighbors. The Moabites, Edomites, the Babylonians, the Philistines, the Amorites, the Ammonites. They just said, why don't we just give up this facade we've been keeping up and just adopt the idolatrous ways of our neighbors and call it good and go from there. That's basically what they're saying. So, verse 32, in effect, were they already like the nations around them? Yeah, they really were. They really were. In fact, in one aspect, in some cases, they were worse. They wanted to serve wood and stone, that is, idols made out of wood that they made, and idols carved out of stone that they had made. God says, I will never, ever allow this. That's what he's going to say. I will never, ever will allow the nation just to completely desert me, because I've made promises through the Jewish nation that I am not going to go back on. When God makes a promise, it's going to be fulfilled. His purposes in choosing them as his people cannot be revoked. But he's going to do some thinning out that we will see a little bit later. God will always be their God, whether they choose to acknowledge him or not. We've got much of our population today that is not serving God, and they know it, but God is still their God. They're still going to answer. The fact that they don't acknowledge him and don't listen to him is beside the point. He says, I'm still going to rule over you. And so Israel just couldn't abandon their blessed high position that they had been given by God over the nations of the world. And you're still going to be responsible to me. Any questions on all of these verses? Okay. Verse 33. God continues, as I live, declares the Lord, surely with a mighty hand, this is difficult by the way, surely with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with wrath poured out, I will be king over you. I will bring you out from the peoples and gather you from the lands where you are scattered with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with wrath poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness. Have we just been discussing the wilderness? So it's nothing new introduced. I will bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and there I will enter into judgment with you face to face. As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness, in the land of Egypt, so I will enter into judgment with you, declares the Lord God. And I will make you pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge from you the rebels and those who transgress against me. I will bring them out of the land where they sojourn, but they will not enter the land of Israel. Thus you will know that I am the Lord. When you see in that first verse up there that he's going to do it with an outstretched arm, what does that always mean? Power. When God says, I stretch out my arm, that means he's going to exercise his power either for something good for his people or, in this case, punishment for his people. And it is a judgment from which none can escape and none will be able to withstand. And God says, I'm going to show myself to be king over this people by leading them into judgment in another wilderness experience. I don't know how it's an anti-wilderness experience, but keep in mind the first one in Egypt, as they came out of Egypt. When he says that, the Babylonian exile was Israel's second wilderness experience, but it's not like the first one. The first one was for deliverance, for salvation. This time, when he brings them out, he says in verse 33, with wrath poured out, I will be king over you, despite your decision that we're just going to be like the nations and serve them as a people. He says, I will never put up with, I will never tolerate that. Yes, individuals have done that, and are still doing that, he says, but as a people, I am Lord over you, and I will continue to be king over you, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. In other words, God's saying, I'm not going to give up or go back on my promises because I'm having so much trouble with you. I'm going to make it work, at least for some of you, somehow, some way.
I chose you good or bad, but I chose you.
Yes, yes, very good, John. The prophet Hosea said, I have been the Lord your God since the land of Egypt, and I will make you live in tents again, as in the days of the appointed festival, which he's talking about tabernacles. And there's a better word for it. The festival of booths, in which they went out and dwelt in tents and booths to remember their time in the wilderness. That was one of the four Jewish festivals. But let's see, okay, that's too far. He says, I shall be king over you one way or the other. I have been exercising a lot of restraint and patience in dealing with you so far, but this time when I bring you out into the wilderness, it's going to be wrath. It's not going to be pleasant like it was the first time, because that was what was needed. And so God says, I guess that I'm going to make this relationship work. He announces a new Exodus in terms used to describe the first one with the same mighty hand. He brought them out of Egypt, had defeated Pharaoh's army at the Sea of Reeds, the Red Sea. But this time, this Exodus is going to be very much different because of your stubborn, rebellious attitude and conduct. And of course, the scattering in the wilderness obviously took place to a small extent up to the point where we are chronologically, which is about 5 years before Jerusalem fell. So only a few thousand had been deported. One group in 597, which was, I think, included Ezekiel, and then there was another group in 606 before that had been deported. But now we're going to have a mass deportation when Nebuchadnezzar destroys Jerusalem and virtually deports or exiles the entire nation. So, okay, any questions on any of these verses? Everybody understand? This review is for the purpose of showing that your conduct has been, at least for one thing, consistently bad. Okay, I punished the people back then on 3 stages of their disobedience and rebellion, and I'm going to have done, and going to continue to do, and I'm going to climax that punishment with the destruction of Jerusalem, the temple, and the deportation of the entire nation. Because I've had it up to here, yes, John.
Pass under the rod in 37.
Oh, no, did I miss that? Let's see, where is that? Verse 37. A shepherd, when he brings his sheep in at night, causes them to pass under the rod so that he can check their condition, see how they're doing, and to count them, and to take any steps necessary for those that may be ill or wounded in some way. So that is a way of making a separation between the good and the bad. He says, I will make you pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Now, what's the bond of the covenant? It's subjection to me in the law of Moses, the covenant, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Now, these he's going to bring into the bond of the covenant are those sheep whom he accepts. And some of these sheep that pass under the shepherd's rod are going to be what? Rejected. Okay? So it's, go ahead. Purged. Yes, I don't know why I skipped that. Yes, I do. It's because I'm old and forgetful. Yes, ma'am.
My translation says, let me find it. I will make you pass under the rod, and I will let you go in by number.
I will let you go in by number. Okay.
That's Revised Standard Version.
RSV? Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know of a translation with that. What's the New King James say on verse 37? I know somebody has one.
I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
That's what yours says too. What about the NIV?
It says, on the rod, I will take note of you as you pass under my rod and bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Okay. I don't know why we got the difference here. Okay. You sure you've got the RSV or the HCSV?
It says Revised Standard.
Revised Standard. Okay. All right.
I just said, would that mean putting a number to discount?
I'm sorry.
That version that said they were coming in by the number,
Mm-hmm.
would that mean you just?
Well, yes. Part of the passing under the rod was to make sure all are accounted for. Yes. So that would fit. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. But there's going to be an inspection going on as each sheep passes under the rod, and I can guarantee you, Yahweh will not miss a one. We will not make a mistake. Yes.
Isn't there something about being numbered and, I'm trying to go along with what she says, how God says that I've heard it about being numbered and
Okay, but it clearly is a screening or a separation when he says, I'll make you pass under the rod, and it's a shepherd's rod as the sheep come back into the coat. Thanks for pointing that out, John. Anything else I missed? Okay. Oops, I've already looked at that. Verse 39. As for you, now he's up to the present. He's talking to the people now, addressing that particular group. O house of Israel, thus says the Lord God, go serve everyone his idols, but later you will listen to me. And my holy name you will profane no longer with your gifts and your idols. For on my holy mountain, on the high mountain of Israel, declares the Lord God, the whole house of Israel, all of them will serve me in the land, and there I will accept them, and there I will seek your contributions and the choicest of your gifts with all your holy things. As a soothing aroma, I will accept you when I bring you out from the peoples and gather you from the lands where you are scattered. I will prove myself holy among you in the sight of the nations, and you will know that I am the Lord when I bring you into the land of Israel, into the land which I swore to give your forefathers. I'm not sure why verse 39 is included in the paragraph, because it's a completely different thought from what occurs at verse 40 on down. I was just wondering if it might have been a parenthesis or something like that originally. But when he says to the people, go serve everyone his idols, you remember last week we talked about that God handed them over or gave them laws which were not good for them. Okay, this is a similar idea. But he says, later after you have done that, you will surely listen to me. I think he's talking about, and the Jews did, finally came to their senses after the during the 70 years captivity. They finally got rid of their idols and have never adopted them since. And you can see how drastic the punishment had to be for God to bring them to that point. Look what I had to do to cure them of this. Don't tell me how many thousands, tens of thousands, lost their lives. Men, women, and children. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it almost seems like they kept looking at it like the grass was greener on the other side. And so they kept thinking how these other nations were having so much more fun, or their lives were so much easier, and this, that, and the other. And so they kept adopting their idols and thinking that would make their life easier.
Or happier.
Or better somehow, whatever their.
And what did they find out?
And so it seems like God finally said, fine, you think it's greener? Have at it.
And then, after you've done that for a while, you will surely listen to me. Finally, perhaps, some of them will come to their senses, and you will listen to me. That's after he has just given them up and said, well, go ahead. Go ahead and serve your idols and see how you like it. Verse 40 is the first in a while positive note that we're going to strike, because God says, on my holy mountain, remember, look at the last part of verse 39. After they listened to him, what's the result? My holy name you will profane no longer with your gifts and with your idols. Why? Because on my holy mountain, on the high mountain of Israel, there the whole house of Israel, all of them will serve me in the land, and serve me, and I will accept them and seek your contributions and your gifts with all of your holy things. So he's talking about a restoration of a people who have made the decision finally to serve him and him alone with all of their heart and soul and mind. Okay, see. Verse 30, I've already looked at verse 39 in the King James, New King James. Oh, okay, there is a difference between the King James and the New King James and mine on verse 39. Go serve everyone his idols, and hereafter, if you will not obey me, but profane my holy name, no more with your gifts and your idols. So there's a difference there, but the idea is still the same. Now, regarding this holy mountain, and this will have to be my last point tonight, Isaiah wrote probably 150 years before Ezekiel's time these words: it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains, and it will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. And many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And we've got enough people in here who know what that's referring to. This same mountain that's in verse 40 of Ezekiel. That's the same mountain referred to 150 or so years later. Now, what word went forth from Jerusalem? The gospel. Acts chapter 2, that's where it began. And the mountain, of course, is the church, reference to the church. What is it, Hebrews 12? You just hit it. 12:28 that we discussed before. Hold on just a minute before I forget that. Let me see. Hebrews. I would have had this ready, but this just occurred to me. No, that's not it. It's close though. Oh, okay, verse 22. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, to the heavenly Jerusalem, and to myriads of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, whose names who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect. Same mountain. Same mountain. Mount Zion stands for the place where God lives. Okay, and God, as we all know in the New Testament, lives in his people. And that's what he's talking about, in my view, in verses 40, 41, and 42. He's looking forward. We've already talked about a punishment, and a separation, and the judgment of the people who are going to pass under the rod. Well, the result of that is that we're going to separate the good from the bad. And the good are going to be those who heard, the first group anyway, who listened to Peter's sermon in Acts chapter 2 and began the church. And that the law shall go forth from Jerusalem, and that's in Luke 24 because Jesus quotes it. And of course, that's the spread of the gospel that we read about in the book of Acts. Any questions? It's 8 o'clock. It's good to have some good news, folks. I mean, we've had wrath for a month or longer. It's good to have some encouraging news. Now, after we get to chapter 40 or 41, it'll all be good news. Although a little bit difficult to put together. Okay, so God's going to bring his people out in the wilderness again with wrath, and he's going to separate the good from the bad, cause them to pass under the rod, and then there's going to be a great revival on that mountain, chapter 20, verse 40, and he's going to have his people. He says, I will not give up my claim on you. Okay? No matter what you do, you're still my people. And I promised that who was going to come through the Jews? The Messiah. So we've got to keep a nation of some sort intact, a group, for God's promises to be fulfilled. Questions? Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day. Another day of life that you have given us, for we realize that even our next breath is dependent upon your will. Father, help us learn from our predecessors' mistakes and sins and rebellion, and help us to learn to be the people that you want us to be, who love you and trust you in every aspect of what we do. Go with us as we leave tonight and bring us back Sunday in Jesus' name. Amen.